Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken, and today, guys, I am here to talk about Rebel Without a Cause, one of the latest releases from Warner Brothers. So yeah, we're going to get into this movie, guys. Look at this slipcover. Such a nice slipcover. It's a nice matte finish right there. Look at James Dean. Isn't he beautiful? Yeah, we're going to get into talking about this movie, guys. I'm sorry. My reviews get a little weird sometimes. We're going to get into talking about this movie and the transfer and all the good stuff, special features, the audio. We're going to talk about the audio as well. And then like I just alluded to, the packaging, we'll do a little unboxing of it as well. But before we get into it, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We talk about 4Ks and Blu-rays and physical media and owning the movies that you love on this channel every single day. So if you're into that kind of thing, definitely consider hitting the subscribe button. Also be sure to like this video, guys. Liking videos is very important to the YouTube gods, the algorithm, all that good stuff. All the things that we YouTubers just preach every day. Hit the like button and then leave me a comment down below. What's your thoughts on Rebel Without a Cause from 1955? This movie is damn near 70 years old that we're getting ready to talk about here today. What do you think of this movie? Have you seen this film? Are you going to pick up this 4K? There was a Steelbook version that released as well, a Best Buy exclusive Steelbook version that came out for, I believe, $32.99. But the standard 4K edition is $23.79. So let's go ahead and get into, first off, we're going to talk about the movie. I had never seen this film before. I know, guys, surprise, surprise, I haven't seen something. Well, I watched it for the first time, just got finished watching it, and actually, watched a couple of the special features as well. And I'll have to say that this movie, look, I'd never seen a James Dean movie before. I've heard about James Dean. He's been in like songs and everybody talks about James Dean. Of course, the tragic death of James Dean. I think he was 22 years old when he died in 1955. Actually died the same year this movie came out. And everybody talks about how great of an actor James Dean is, and they're absolutely correct. He is phenomenal in this film, and I think he only did maybe 4 or 5 films in his career, but during that time, he definitely made an impact, and it was because of performances like this in Rebel Without a Cause. So, performance-wise, James Dean absolutely fantastic in this. This was directed by Nicholas Ray, which I haven't really heard of that director before. And again, if you're watching this and you're new to my channel, I haven't seen a lot of the classic films. So don't come at me and be like, Nicholas Ray, I can't believe you haven't seen this and this and this and this. And Nicholas Ray was one of the greatest directors of all time. I'm sorry, this is the first Nicholas, at least from what I'm aware of, this is the first Nicholas Ray movie that I've seen. But as for the movie itself, guys, look, I did like it. Now, this is a movie that to me, I imagine back in the 50s, this was kind of like a teen movie. Like this would be like The American Pie or Can't Hardly Wait. Like those movies were to the 90s. This movie was to the 50s. Like this was the movie that the kids had to sneak to go see, hide from their parents. Like if there was like VHS tapes or whatever, DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff back in the day, like they would have to hide that from their parents because their parents wouldn't want them to see a movie like this. This is very much it's a look at the American youth post World War II and them kind of rebelling against their parents. But they're not like kids that are in poverty or anything. They're well-to-do kids, but it's kind of them rebelling against their parents and society. And that's what the whole movie's about. So like, I imagine in the 50s, like this movie had to have been pretty controversial. I mean, I did watch a special feature, a couple special features, and they kind of got into that a little bit. So the actual movie, like I did like it. I did like the movie quite a bit. Like I said, James Dean's phenomenal. Natalie Wood is in this movie. I think it's the first time I've seen a Natalie Wood film. I remember like my mom and grandmother like talking about Natalie Wood when I was a kid, but I had never seen anything that she was in. I just knew that she died tragically as well. I think she was like 41 when she died. She drowned. So this movie kind of has a lot of tragedy attached to it, just with the two main actors that are in the film died tragically way too young. So, but yeah, it's a good movie. It's a little bit. And again, I'm looking at this from, I try not to do this, guys. I really try not to do this. I try to, transplant myself back into the 50s and imagine like what it would be like to watch a movie like this back in the 50s, being a teenager. I'm sure that this spoke to a lot of teenagers of America back in the day. But when I'm watching it now, 70 years later in the 2020s, some of it comes off just a little bit too hammy, a little bit too over the top, a little bit too melodramatic. You have these kids that are well-to-do, that do seemingly have good upbringings. And why are they so upset about their parents? Like, I don't like really understand that. I don't feel like the film really did a good enough job at like portraying why these kids were like rebelling so hard. Like, James Dean's character is upset at his dad because he doesn't talk back to his mother or something. Like, to me, that seems like a very thin reason to be upset at your parents. But I don't know, maybe that was an issue back in the day. Maybe there was an issue with the dads just kind of taking a more submissive role in the relationship, and they wanted to get that out there in this movie. At the end of the day, that was just kind of the inciting incident that kind of led to the other events of the film. So again, it's important to the movie, but it's not like the whole movie. And then, you know, her dad doesn't want her to kiss her. And it's just, I don't know, the reasons that the kids are rebelling against their parents don't seem the most important, at least to me. So when they're doing all these like super dramatic things and just having these dramatic sequences, it just comes off as you're just being a moody teenager. Just shut up and know your role already. So it's hard to like truly relate to them. As far as like, this movie just really wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I thought it was going to be more of like a romance between James Dean and Natalie Wood. And it kind of is to an extent, but the circumstances that lead to their romance is kind of iffy. And, you know, I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but there's an event that happens involving like a drag race of sorts. I'll just say that doesn't end well for one of the participants. And then what follows that with them and their romance, I don't know, it doesn't feel right to me. So I could never like really get invested in their relationship. But again, maybe the movie didn't even want me to be invested in their relationship, but that's just kind of what I got from it. But I mean, across the board, guys, look, it's a great movie. I'm not going to say it's not a great movie. It's definitely holds its place in cinematic history, and I can see why this movie is so revered to this day. And maybe I'll watch it later on in life and something else will click with me and I'll enjoy it more. You know, performance-wise, like I said, everybody's fantastic. I had no idea that Tommy Wiseau from The Room got his whole, like, "you're tearing me apart, Lisa," from this movie, because that's what James Dean says in this movie. Like, it's like right in the beginning, he's like, "you're tearing me apart," and he's like talking to his parents. I will say this, I like the way the movie opens. It just kind of brings you into this world and this story and James Dean's character and kind of paints the picture of just what the mental state that he's in. And I think it does a really good job of establishing that character in the beginning. It was a very different kind of opening at the police station. So I did appreciate that. And again, it goes into that whole like 50s like greaser stuff. And there's a switchblade fight in this movie at one point between James Dean and one of the other bullied characters. That's kind of pretty intense. It's a pretty intense sequence. So, and then obviously the connection to La La Land, which is a movie that I've loved. I've always loved that movie since it came out. And, you know, I remember watching that movie and they're watching Rebel Without a Cause on the screen, and then the whole like planetarium observatory in the movie, the connection between this movie and La La Land. So I appreciated all that kind of stuff, just being a La La Land fan. But as for the movie itself, I will give it, look, I appreciate it. It's a very important film of cinematic history. It's a landmark film with one of the landmark actors of Hollywood. So I'll give it a 4 out of 5. Again, I can't give it that masterpiece. It's kind of the same way I felt about the Maltese Falcon. So, but let's go ahead and dive into the 4K restoration of Rebel Without a Cause. This is a native 4K restoration with HDR10. And look, guys, Warner Brothers has just been on fire with their 4K restorations. I just reviewed Maltese Falcon. That looked excellent. And I'll say that streak for Warner Brothers does not end here, because this movie looked phenomenal in 4K. And just all of the outfits and stuff and costumes that everybody's wearing just really stood out. The colors just really popped. And I'm telling you guys, these classic movies, when you go back and watch them, like when you're watching like a 90s film restored in 4K, you're like, okay, this looks pretty good. This looks good. Like, I can tell the difference for sure. Some of them look better than others, but like almost every single classic film that I've seen in 4K, like from the 50s and the 40s and the 60s, like just really stand out. Like even more so, even the 30s movies, like with the Universal monsters, but even more so than the restorations from like the 90s and the 2000s, because there's just so much more room for improvement. And that HDR just really enhances all the colors and all the textures and the backgrounds and all that stuff, and the clarity in this is just fantastic. Like in that police station in the beginning, you can just see everything, every little detail in the background. It just looks fantastic. So those of you that are kind of against like 4K classic movies because you don't think that it really enhances it that much, you're absolutely wrong. Like this movie was shot in 35 millimeter, and to me, like when you watch these older movies like in 4K, there's just nothing like it because it just feels like you're watching that film, that old school film at its fullest potential, and it's just remarkable to see that picture quality. And this just looked excellent. Like James Dean has this red jacket that he's wearing that's just like super bright and vivid, and it looks excellent, but it all just looks so natural. There's a great grain structure to this, good amount of grain, but it all just looks so natural, and just it feels like the movie was intended to look back in the day, and it just doesn't feel like they like bumped up like certain things just to do it, just to make it look better. It all feels so natural, but it all just looks so fantastic. So Rebel Without a Cause, the 4K restoration. One thing I'll say, and again, this is probably a technical thing that they just can't get around, but when the movie's like transitioning like sequences, scenes to scene, some of those transitions are a little rough because it's almost like the color gets cut out as they're transitioning, and you do notice that pretty good. But I imagine that's just something to do with how the movie was made, how they were able to restore it. They just couldn't quite get those sequences, you know, intact to look like. I don't know the restoration process that they do, guys, or that they go through. So I'm sure there's a reason for that. It's just something I noticed. It was a little jarring when they were going scene to scene. You know, beyond that, guys, great 4K transfer. Warner Brothers is just on fire with these classic films as of late. Now, as for the sound, I was kind of surprised to see that this did have Dolby Atmos. I was not expecting that with this release. And it also has the Master Audio DTS HD 2.0, the mono track. So I'll be honest here, like with the Dolby Atmos, I was listening to it for like the first 30 minutes with the Atmos, and I wasn't a big fan of it. It was way too loud. It was way too bombastic. I was like, this movie just doesn't need to be this loud. I don't know, it just didn't feel like it fit with the kind of film that I was watching. So I switched it to the mono track, and I enjoyed the movie a lot more from then on out. I don't know, there was just something about it. It just didn't need it. It was just way too like loud, and it's like everybody just felt way too loud and echoey, and I just didn't like the way it sounded with the Dolby Atmos. So I think this is one movie. I always appreciate it when people do the sound upgrade, but I don't know if this movie really needed it. I think it sounded better actually with that 2.0 master audio track. So getting into the special features here, this is all like, you know, ported over from previous releases, previous Blu-rays, DVDs. You know, you do have a commentary by Douglas L. Rathgeb, author of Making of Rebel Without a Cause. And then you also have 3 special features that are all pretty lengthy. It's almost like 2 hours worth of special features here. You have the documentaries, Rebel Without a Cause, Defiant Innocence, and James Dean Remembered. So James Dean Remembered, I think they shot that like back in the 70s because the guy, when it opened up, he was saying it was the 20th anniversary of James Dean's death. So that had to have been from like 1975. That's about an hour long. Defiant Innocence is like 36 minutes. You have Dennis Hopper doing the memories from Warner lot, so that's cool that you, and again, I failed to mention that Dennis Hopper's in this movie. He's very young, he's a teenager in the film, and I don't think he maybe has like one line in the entire movie, but he's kind of like a background character, but every time he popped up, I was like, hey, that's Dennis Hopper, I recognize him. He just has this distinct look to him, but that was a really good special feature from him. And yeah, some good stuff here, but again, nothing new. And I will continue to complain about this because this is supposed to be like an anniversary edition, 100th anniversary Warner Brothers. And it's the 68th anniversary of the film itself. So it's like you're going to put out this special edition of Rebel Without a Cause on 4K. Do something new, for crying out loud. Again, I'll continue to complain about it. I always do, every single video. Like these extras are like all from the DVD. I don't think they had any new special features for the Blu-ray either. So I don't think they've done special features, new interviews, new anything for Rebel Without a Cause since the DVD era. At least that's what was on here. Maybe previous releases had different stuff. But you had additional scenes without sound. So I guess they had like extra scenes that didn't have the sound. Theatrical trailer. And it says much more, but I don't think that there was much more than that. I'm pretty sure that was pretty much it there. But Yeah, but I mean, the special features are very good. They're very informative, but again, they're like 20 something years old by now. So, in some cases, 40 years old. Give us something new, please, Warner Brothers. Like, I don't care. Like, if it's only 10 minutes, that's fine. At least give us something new that's exclusive to this release. You know, kind of give us a little bit more of our money's worth here. Again, I know it's only $23.79, and the 4K looks great, and the movie's great. But we need that little extra. We need those special features, you know, to just really kind of fill out this collector's set right here. So, but yeah, it's a good release, guys. It is a good release. Like I said, this slipcover looks awesome. I love the matte finish on it and the gold and all that stuff. You got that image right there with Natalie Wood, James Dean in the car getting ready to race. Really good stuff. I'll kind of, you know, show you the back right here. Show you the special features and the specs. I'll take it out. I'll do a little unboxing for you guys before I close out the video. You got the casting list right there. Open it up, show off the discs. So I've already done the unboxing for this, but one of the discs is gold. I think it's the 4K that's gold right here, and then the Blu-ray is a black case. But really good release by Warner Bros. Again, I'm not trying to complain about it, but I always have to complain about those special features. But that's my thoughts on Rebel Without a Cause, starring James Dean, directed by Nicholas Ray, on 4K from Warner Bros. Again, it is $23.79. If you do want to order it based on my recommendation, that pre-order link is down below. Please use that. It's an Amazon affiliate link, and if you use it, you will be supporting the channel. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment down below your thoughts on this if you're going to pick it up. You know, turn on the bell notifications. Follow me on all my social media accounts down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.